In the far future, where wars are fought with the might of battle mechs, Without Question tells the tale of Kanji Chistu as he struggles to keep Clan Jade Falcon alive in the occupation zone his predecessor abandoned in her failed bid to conquer Terra. Though it's a sequel to Brian Young's award-winning novel A Question of Survival, Without Question serves as a perfect on-ramp for anyone interested in jumping into the Ill Clan era and the current BattleTech timeline. The new Khan of Clan Jade Falcon has to fight for the very soul of his clan and their stronghold of Sudaden as Clan Hell's Horses invade and they experience attacks from within and without. With shocking twists and turns, the latest installment of the BattleTech mythos will have you hanging on by the edge of your seat. Releasing May 15th, Without Question is available for pre-order now, and you won't want to miss it. In the far future, where wars are fought with the might of battle mechs, Without Question tells the tale of Kanji Chistu as he struggles to keep Clan Jade Falcon alive in the occupation zone his predecessor abandoned in her failed bid to conquer Terra. Though it's a sequel to Brian Young's award-winning novel A Question of Survival, Without Question serves as a perfect on-ramp for anyone interested in jumping into the Ill Clan era and the current BattleTech timeline. The new Khan of Clan Jade Falcon has to fight for the very soul of his clan and their stronghold of Sudaden as Clan Hell's Horses invade and they experience attacks from within and without. With shocking twists and turns, the latest installment of the BattleTech mythos will have you hanging on by the edge of your seat. Releasing May 15th, Without Question is available for pre-order now, and you won't want to miss it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Newsday. Hi, man, Jason, is it frozen over there in Chicago?
It's so cold.
It's so cold.
Cold.
The storm is coming. So I'm so excited, guys, to have Jason Hardy with me here finally. I've been waiting to have you on for weeks to talk to you today. But for those who don't know, Jason Hardy is the new director of the RPG division that just rolled out this year. It's a brand new division. We've already announced that Voltron is going to be released later this year as an RPG. We'll do some talking about that, I'm sure. But in the meantime, while Jason freezes, I've got some announcements for you all. Feel free to pipe in with anything that you feel you need to say, Jason.
I think a storm is coming.
Thank you all for joining us. What I've got for you today, for BattleTech, we have Mercenaries has been charging throughout the first part of this week. Pretty much all of wave one has been charged, has gone through. If you had any difficulties with your cards getting charged, don't worry. There's still going to be a wave two, but we want to get shipping moving as soon as possible. So shipping is on track at this point. Thank you again, Tyler, for everything that you do every day. New releases that are now live. These rolled out this last Friday on the online store. Most of them. One was a couple weeks older. But we have the Urban Mech Lamb Force Pack that is now available in the online store at store.catalystgamelabs.com. The links to each of these, by the way, are in the description of today's episode. Star League Command Lance, which has the first of the series of the pre-painted 1 mini. The Orion is in this force pack. The 40th Anniversary, A Game of Armored Combat, and the 40th Anniversary Beginner Box are now live on the online store. And the premium miniature Mad Dog, the Vulture, is live on the store as well. So that is the majority of our BattleTech news. The final bit is that tonight on the Catalyst Community Discord, there is going to be an AMA live with line developer Ray Arasia and assistant line developer Aaron K. Hall at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So it's just going to be all text-based. You guys can enter your questions and they'll answer anything that they can for you. Shadowrun. Gosh, Jason, I'm going to have you help me with some of this news. So I've talked about for a couple weeks now that there is a 5th edition bundle of holding coming, I believe in June. Is that correct?
Yes, coming in June. It should have a lot of, we did a more core bundle last year. This will have more adventures, campaign things, and some good supplements. So it'll really help you beef up, fill out your SR5 line.
Awesome.
To get you through the cold winter.
Cold winter of June here in the States. Awesome. Last week, I think it was, we announced Shadowrun Munchkin coming in September. How does that feel, Jason, having two worlds collide here?
It feels fantastic because I've played it, I've looked at it. It's a funny game. If you want Shadowrun in-jokes, it is full of Shadowrun in-jokes, and heaven knows I've made a few, so I appreciate them a lot. So I'm looking forward to that.
For those who don't know, Jason just recently stepped into his role as director for the RPG division. Up until now, he's been the line developer for Shadowrun. So Shadowrun is always near and dear to our hearts. Cool. What else we got here? Hey, Jason, I haven't talked too much about this. I've mentioned it in passing, but you have a whole lot more detail than I do. Can you talk a little bit about the scroll that's being produced this year for Shadowrun?
So we're sometimes in the fortunate position in the Shadowrun line where Echo Churnick comes up and says, I want to do a crazy thing. Will you let me do a crazy thing? And we say, yes, Echo, do that crazy thing. You might have the 6th World Tarot, and I might have to burn my extra copy for heat, even though I love it so.
You're so committed to the bit, and I love it.
So committed. Wait, are we still doing the for now thing, or is that over?
No, that was back in December.
That was months ago. Okay, I gotta remember what I'm doing.
Awesome.
So she did the tarot because she was like, I want to do 72 Shadowrun tarot images, and we said, fantastic. And she made the tarot, and this time she said, wouldn't it be cool if we made like a whole artifact for Shadowrun that's a magic scroll and would have spells on it? And we're like, well, how would it have spells on it? And she said, well, it wouldn't. What it would have is all sorts of cool icons and graphics, and it would look like something that came out of the distant past, maybe a relic from the 4th world, the last time the world had magic. But what you could do is you could hold a phone over the images, and then it will translate those images into a spell. So once you had the right app, then you can use the scroll to unlock a whole bunch of Shadowrun magic. But you'd also have this fantastic large scroll on wooden dowels that is just full of Echo's designs and artwork that by itself would be a prime, awesome looking item, but it will also have a whole bunch of Shadowrun magic built into it. So we said, yes, Echo, do that thing. So Echo did that thing. and we are just in the process of getting it manufactured so we can get it to all of you. It's going to be really cool. It's so pretty looking. It's going to be really big because that's what we kept saying in the process. What size should we go with? Well, what's the biggest available? Do that.
Yeah, it's going to be just gorgeous. I've seen some of the photos of it so far, and the fact that it's so cyberpunk with the app and the AR. Um, I'm being told, Jason, by chat to have you swallow the mic for warmth because you're a little quiet.
I'll try to get closer. Yeah, I'm warming up a little bit. I'll move the scarf.
The adrenaline. Awesome.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm okay to take off the hat. Warming up a little bit. And
Just a
also, I
little
don't know
bit.
what happened to the hair, but here we are. Okay.
So I'm in Austin, Texas this week for ChupacabraCon. So we're going to be doing a lot of BattleTech. We have a booth right at the front of the convention center. So we'll be the first thing you see. So come on over, say hello, check out the merch, play some games. We have demo agents here that are going to be playing. We're doing kind of a mini version of Masters and Minions. So you can meet, come play with me, come play with Russell Zimmerman and Phil Lee. We'd love to have you guys here if you are anywhere close to Austin, or if you're not and just feel like buying a ticket, that's fine too. All right, so I want to get to the meat of today and make our big
You.
announcement, Jason. So what, just
Well, I'm
Voltron alone does not an RPG division make.
I'm
So,
feeling a little warmer. I think I can get rid of my stupid coat and
and are oh, there it is. I'm gonna change the graphic. Oh, we've got Frostpunk the role-playing game, guys.
Frostpunk, the role-playing game, and I'm taking up this coat because I'm so warm.
Look,
Get that
the
thing out of me.
commitment to the bit is much appreciated.
Feel
Awesome.
better now.
So tell us about, gosh, all right. So first of all, for those who have never played, what is Frostpunk?
So Frostpunk is a great society survival game where it's set in the late 19th century, and the way the world works is there has been a longstanding cooling of the world followed by a great frost, and so the whole world has frozen apocalyptically so, and so some pockets of civilization exist around generators, and so that is what you depend on to survive. You need your generator working, and then you try to build out a city that will have steel processing, coal mining, wood processing, digging. I love the wall drills. It's how I get my wood. And of course, you need food. So you're trying to build this society and keep people from getting too unhappy, keep them fed, keep them warm. And that is what you have to do. And the game excels at throwing curveballs at you. And it's not just that it's difficult, it is that sometimes, but it really likes to make you think about the choices you're making as you go along. One of the dilemmas that I remember the most, just because I tried to resist it, was one time when you're preparing for this big storm that's going to come. You see it on the horizon and you're trying to get your city ready. And then you also get a big crowd of refugees coming. Do you take in the refugees? Do you take in just the sick refugees? What can you do? And it's really hard if you take in, or do you take in only the healthy refugees? Because if you take in the sick refugees, they're probably going to make more people in your city sick. And then you're going to have to deal with a depleted workforce as you try to ramp up to prepare for the storm. Do you take anyone in, or do you just say they're on their own, they should have stayed where they were? And you really have to think about what is survival of your city worth to you. And those are the dilemmas it keeps making you face throughout the game. You know, you have to face up to, will you use child labor? How much child labor will you use? Will you use none at all, or is some of it okay? And it really makes you challenge what you think is important and what you will do in order to survive.
Yeah, and morale in the city is dependent on a lot of these choices you make. So if you turn people away, or if you catch someone that was stealing food, how you deal with them is either going to raise hope or lower, or no, sorry, yeah, raise hope or raise discontent. Um, and so the ethical dilemmas that come along with this survival sim. So like if you like an Age of Empires type game, or Banish, things like that, where it's resource management, community and city growth and building. Like this is a really cool video game for you. And
And one thing I like about it compared to some other society building games is one option that's not really available to you is, military conquest. You're not going to expand your realm by building a big army and taking over other cities. That's not what kind of game this is. Usually you're just on your own and you don't have any other cities to relate to until some later scenarios, and you get some, but you need to try to negotiate with them and work with them rather than conquest, because conquest isn't going to get you anywhere.
yeah, so 11-bit, who produces Frostpunk, announced early this year that Frostpunk 2 is coming this fall. So what do you know about Frostpunk 2?
So Frostpunk 2 is in the great tradition of sequels, a little bit more of everything. So it's 30 years after the initial Frostpunk,
Oh,
and
wow.
they've discovered oil. And so that has changed the dynamic of survival in these cities, because in the first Frostpunk, you're really teetering on the edge. A bad storm could just throw everything off and you don't have enough food. In Frostpunk 2, you're more settled. You probably could survive, but the biggest danger is going to come from within your own city.
Ooh.
Can you keep people together enough? Can you build a cohesive society? Can you respond to all the competing needs of the various segments of society without having to break apart? Because if it does tear apart and people can't work together, then you are going to lose your city, and the city's still at risk of collapsing. And so the democracy model in Frostpunk 2 is really extensive. If you played Frostpunk 1 and remembered how you sometimes would choose the path to go on, path of faith or path of order, and then you would sometimes choose a law to go on, and that would help your city, but there wasn't a lot of jockeying you had to do to pass the law. You just, as captain of the city, could declare often, this is what we're doing now, and now we're
New
doing this.
law passed.
Right, exactly. So in Frostpunk 2, you're going to have to really work with your town council. You're going to have to see how many votes you have. You're going to have to do some favor trading. You're going to have to build a block that will help you get what you want, and then try to make sure that what you want is actually good for the city.
Oh, wow.
So, and the cities are bigger. Sometimes you build in blocks of units rather than individual buildings, just because the scale is bigger. But there is a lot more focus on the societal dynamics that I'm very much looking forward to losing lots of hours exploring.
Yep. Yep. So Frostpunk 2, when is that set to come out right now?
I believe late July.
Okay. All right. So that leads to this partnership. So tell us a little bit about how the partnership with 11-bit came to be. And then we'll get into the details of the game itself.
The original steps of the partnership, I'm a little fuzzy on. I was buried in Shadowrun a lot at the time. So I didn't hear about it until it was starting to be more of a definite thing, that we were going to have this game and we would need some rules to go with it. So then I got in on the early stages of what kind of game rules could work with a Frostpunk RPG. And as it happens, I've been talking with Randall Bills of Catalyst about a system, because we'd both been kind of on parallel processes working on a similar type system. And so, because we are very much nerds, we at Gen Con, at one night, I said, hold on, I got to show you this spreadsheet. because that's what nerds do at Gen Con, exchange spreadsheets. And it was a probability curve of the dice system I'd been working on that he'd been working in a similar way. And it's a really cool probability curve. It's got good steps up without being too lurchy, and it worked well. And so we had this system, and then we heard that the Frostpunk license was something that we could get, and we're like, let's make these two things work together. So that is where we are. Is the system is called Dice Core, and Frostpunk will be the first Dice Core game.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about Dice Core. How does that work?
So it is a 3 dice pool system. So you're always rolling 3 dice, and the dice come from your character generally. One die comes from your attribute or skill, another comes from the attribute linked to the skill, and then the third die is just based on how complex the feat that you're attempting is. And you roll those and attempt to hit a target number. And you can get upgrades or downgrades to the dice based on sometimes the gear you have, sometimes the circumstances, choices you make, your relationship with other people. And so you might have, for example, a D8 in your skill. The linked attribute is a D6, and then your feat die is a D8. So those would be the 3 dice you're rolling. But maybe you made some really good tactical decision. Like you said, well, I know how this generator works. I'm familiar with this model. I've repaired it before, so I'm going to try to do the type of repair that usually works here. And the game master might say, okay, you get an upgrade for that. So I could choose one of those 3 dice to upgrade to the next highest type. So my D8 could become a D10, or the D6 could become a D8, and then roll that. And that's where you get a lot of cool probability stuff happening.
Cool. Awesome. Right. So tell us about, how do you take a game like Frostpunk and make it into an RPG? What can we expect that in terms of similarities or differences?
So similarities, the biggest thing we wanted to look at, or biggest 2 things we wanted to look at, is first, the weather obviously has to be your biggest opponent. The weather has to be a factor. You have to be concerned about it. It has to have the potential to make your life really difficult without it encumbering the game too much. So you need to be able to have weather effects without you having to think constantly about the weather instead of what you're having to do. So that's an interesting balance, but the weather absolutely needs to be an NPC in effect, that you're always thinking about what it could do to you.
Cool.
And then the ethical dilemmas and the question of what will you do to get your city to survive needs to be a central question. And it needs to not always be easy. So, if there's an obvious path or an adventure, we probably designed it wrong. It should have a what are my values? What am I willing to trade to make this? And maybe if you roll some extraordinary combos, maybe you can get through without having to make a compromise. But that's not what the Frostlands usually are about. It's about what can I live with?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to keep that spirit in the game too, that you have to make difficult choices in order to keep your city alive. I think a difference between what we can do with the RPG and at least what Frostpunk 1 did is we're set about 10 years later than Frostpunk 1. So we have an opportunity to open things up a little more, to have a few more cities, to have a little bit more connection between the cities so that you can build some dynamics between the cities occasionally. And you can have that a little broader exploration going on.
Mm-hmm.
You might have more established pathways, but there's still a broad unknown outside of the connection between, say, New London and Edge, that you could go out and see what the world is like, and you would have the type of machines that might let you explore a little better than they would in the Frostpunk 1 game. So you have a little bit bigger of a canvas to paint on. And then always the great thing about an RPG is that it offers more choices. So you can, the Frostpunk, the video game, has certain scenarios, and you have certain things that you have to do or that you're limited to. In an RPG, it's whatever you come up with, whatever ideas, whatever cockamamie schemes you come up with, you can try. And so it's a bigger palette that we can paint with while still maintaining the kind of tonal universe that the game set up.
Cool. Okay. So you get to play within your city and the choices you make and the politics within there. You get to explore. I know one of the big things with Frostpunk 1 is exploring the Frostlands and finding extra resources or a place to mine additional coal or help people and get and expand your population. Um, how do you factor that um, into the RPG to make sure that you can still explore and have that element of the storm is coming and you might lose your team out there, um, but you need the stuff that exists out there. So how do you work that into the RPG?
So I mentioned the weather being an antagonist, and there's a whole section in the Game Master chapter about the different ways you can use weather, whether it's building up a storm or whether it's just having effects as you're exploring day to day. So that can always be a factor when you're out there looking at the different locations. And there are some locations set up in Frostpunk 1 that give you some good plot hooks. Tesla City being perhaps the most notable, where they had Nikolai Tesla build this wonderful city that was protected against the heat and used electricity to warm it. So it was briefly a paradise on Earth until uh, Tesla went a little mad and everyone started getting electrocuted. So it's now a ghost town because no one dares set foot in it because you never know what sort of traps or weird electrical devices will kill you. But there's also the chance of advanced tech being there that could help your city. So do you want to take a risk to try to explore that city? And then what would you have to do in order to keep yourself safe there? So that we have at least one plot hook about exploring Tesla City in that. And then there were also the smaller cities that came in the On the Edge expansion for Frostpunk 1, like the wrecked ship and the hot springs and the children's mine. So that kind of shows you the type of things that we can also add when you explore, is that there could be, there could be other warehouses, there could be other wrecked ships, and there could be other settlements that existed that you don't know about because communication in the Frostland is just terrible.
Mhm.
So you have no idea what else is going on there. So you could happen upon just about anything. And in parallel with the core rule book, we will also have available for people to purchase at the Kickstarter, to back at the Kickstarter, an explorer's guide to the Frostland. So it will be a broader
Oh,
set
neat.
of adventures and locations and everything. So you can really take a look at the broad expanse around your city.
Cool. So during development of the game, did you any of the writers, the developers need to go back and like play the different scenarios? And did you incorporate as much as you could from those scenarios? Like there's one that's got an autumn vibe to it. There's one
Mm.
where New London is putting pressure on you, or they might cut you off. There's the rivalries with some other rivalries or partnerships with some other settlements. Did you try to take something from every scenario, or how did that work?
Generally, I mean, yeah, we absolutely played it over and over again and counted it as work. So that's,
Cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
one of the perks of the job. I'm playing Frostpunk today for my work. So yeah, we absolutely looked at the different hooks in there and what they offered and incorporated them, especially on the edge, as I mentioned. So the Crossline chapter of the core book talks about all the locations mentioned in On the Edge. So you get Edge and you get Children's Mine and you get Broken Ship and you get the Hot Springs.
Cool.
So absolutely, we tried to incorporate something from the whole expanse of the game.
So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned the Kickstarter. When is that coming? What can you tell us about it?
So it should be July 9th. We will launch the Kickstarter. It will be a 21-day Kickstarter, so don't sleep on it. Just jump in and back that sucker as soon as it opens. That's what I would do. Um, We have a backer kit page, so that will be linked to in all of our announcements.
I can drop that in the chat now,
And
actually.
it will be dropped in the chat. So you can get a
Yeah.
little preview of some of the artwork that we've been developing for this. We were able to secure the services of the fantastic Marco Panicetti, who does a lot of BattleTech stuff. And he has been doing all of our Frostpunk images and really has caught the vibe and the color contrast dynamic that 11-bit really brings to life, where you have mostly cold with pockets of warmth. And so we'll have lots of great art from him. And the Kickstarter, yeah, will be 9th through the 30th then of July.
Awesome.
We should have quick start rules available when that launches, and how to play videos and ponies for everyone. Were we still doing ponies for everyone? I've been
we're
told we're
still
not doing ponies for everyone.
yeah, we're trying to find if there's a discount in bulk, you know, it's
Okay, both ponies.
So July 9th, you talked about having the Explorer's Guide to the Frostlands, quick start rules, and then a core rule book, I'm assuming. Anything else you can think of might be coming as part of this campaign?
So there'll be two versions of the core rule book. You'll have the regular version and the limited edition.
Ooh.
The limited edition will have a fantastic slipcase that kind of opens in the middle to reveal your book in the case, and will have kind of a frosted snow slipcover to it to make it look really cold. And it will be big enough of a case to fit the book and a cloth map that we'll put in there as
Ooh.
well. That will be available. We should have a Game Master screen. I don't know if you've seen the Shadowrun 6th World Game Master screen.
Yeah.
So, it's got the heat trackers on
Yeah.
it so that you can track how
So it's more
different
interactive
corporations and
instead
entities
of just
are how mad they are getting at you. So since we know how to build those trackers into a Game Master screen, we will
okay.
absolutely put faith, order, coal, wood, food, hope, discontent trackers into the Frostpunk Game Master screen. So as soon
Neat.
as your discontent rises, Game Master can reach over, show you that you've got trouble.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff and add-ons. I'm excited just about the cloth map. That's going to be pretty cool.
Oh, and dice. We should be doing dice too,
Ooh,
because dice are awesome.
are there any talks yet about like are they going to be super icy looking or blue or white or clear or anything like that?
I've got ideas, but I don't want to commit until I've talked to our partners and made sure they can do what I want to do. But
Awesome.
I've got a version close to what I want, so I'm pretty sure they can. Well, here, I'll just contradict myself and say, so this is not quite what I want him to look like, but this is something Norse Foundry already makes.
Oh,
So if
okay,
we get
neat.
something about like that,
Okay, cool.
then we're in business.
Awesome.
So
Anything
just
else?
I want to get tints of color on it because that's important to the dice core system, is being able to tell what dice you're using by shape, by color, so that you can use whichever coding system works for your preferences.
Cool. Okay. So, anything else that you want to add about Frostpunk, the RPG, 11-bit partnership, the RPG division, Dice Core, anything before I switch over to questions?
I mean, everything about all those things. I
Keep
love all
going.
those things. They're fantastic. I've been excited about the Frostpunk RPG for so long. You would not believe how long I've been excited about this. I love the game. I love the atmosphere that it makes. And the thing, if you've played any of 11 bits games, from Frostpunk to this War of Mine to anything, you can see how seriously they take all levels of their games. That from plot to visuals to what do we want people to take away from this game. And so to have them, as partners who are continually making sure that we're at their level is great, because we will keep trying to give the sort of choices that reflect the choices they want in the game. And I love the atmosphere that they created. So the fact that they want us to have that same atmosphere is fantastic. And it's great that we will be able to do that. I'm really excited that they've supported us in this announcement.
Awesome.
And then Dice Core, I love the system. I would, but I think it's really elegant. And I developed a basic version, kind of a version for kids. I didn't want to call it Dice Core Kids because I didn't like the sound of it. So I'm calling it Dice Core Essentials right now. And played it with my daughter, and in her totally unbiased opinion, it's better than D&D. So we
Oh,
got that
yay,
going for us.
AC. Yay, she has place to sleep still. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to jump over to questions, Jason, because there's a bunch of them for you. Um,
Excellent.
I'm going to cover the Frostpunk ones first. So, from Lorcan Nagel, the computer game of Frostpunk has had some criticism about the broad choices being a little bit too binary. Will the RPG allow for more scope mechanically?
Absolutely. And that, as I said, that's one of the great things of an RPG is that you can broaden the choices overall. So, for example, where you don't have to choose between faith and order for a city, you can track the levels of both of them as you go through, and so you can see what the different effects of faith and order are. And then, as far as what you play, your character options are not limited at all. If you can come up with a background of someone who would plausibly live in the Frostlands, and you can throw them in and see what they do. You can be a beacon master, you can be a captain, you can be a tailor, you can be a farmer, you can be a miner, you can be a doctor. I could go on. And you can have your group made up of all these disparate abilities and then see what you can do as a team together. So it does open up the world a little more.
Yeah. Dana Robinson, who guessed in the startup that this was Frostpunk.
Well done, Dana.
Yeah. Are the players in the RPG playing rival cities, or is it a ground level RPG? So I think you're kind of starting to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, typically you'd be playing a group of people probably from the same city, but it doesn't have to be. If the storyline wants there to be people from different city working together and possibly sabotaging each
Ooh.
other on a common task, I absolutely am ready to sign up for that game to either run it or play in it, and I'm ready. So
Yay.
that you're
Awesome.
absolutely playing that way, but you will be playing individual characters rather than like trying to control the full city.
Awesome. Okay. Um, Prussian Havoc asks, what does the Frostpunk RPG bring to the genre, and how does it set itself apart, do you think, from other end time RPGs like Fallout?
So I think it brings a more focus on societal survival and figuring out what you're going to do for your city as a group, and far less focus on scavenging and combat. So it's a lot more group dynamics, and it's a lot more ethical choices
Okay.
than post-apocalyptic games tend to have. A lot of post-apocalypse focuses on everyone's screwed, get yours while you can. And that's not to criticize. I worked on Shadowrun for a long time, which is kind of post-apocalyptic, and I know how it goes. But this is a lot more focused on social dynamics than many games tend to be.
Okay.
And it introduces a new system, and I think it'll be fun for people to see what this system can do in how flexible it is, but also fast moving.
Great. Turbo Turtle asks, are we getting fiction for Frostpunk?
Turbo Turtle knows where his bread is buttered. Um, Maybe, I don't know. I need to check back to see what we can do. There'll be some fiction in the core rule book, but that's already claimed. Because when you have two fiction writers also writing your RPG book, we're gonna take first dibs. But I don't know if we'll be able to do like a short story anthology or anything. That is I don't have an answer to that right now.
Jaskell asked if there's going to be any amount of canonicity in the content in the RPG.
Yes, in that we're trying to reflect their content. We have shared with them some of our content about the bridge we're making between Frostpunk 1 and 2, but for the most part, we left things open enough to not step on their toes.
Mhm.
So it doesn't set things in stone. And that's kind of the vibe overall that they do in Frostpunk 1 and 2 both, is they didn't want to set things too concrete. They wanted it left open so that whatever way you play those games can end up being canon without them having to determine one canon.
Great. Okay.
So I don't know how much of our materials that we sent they use in Frostpunk 2.
Fair. Okay, so a couple of similar questions here. Should we be expecting new offerings in BattleTech RPGs in the near future? This is from Corehammer.
So that falls in the BattleTech department to this point. They are taking care of that. That's not my place to announce, is the safest answer. That's a BattleTech thing for now. If they want my help, I'm happy to offer it.
Cool. And then would Dice Core work well to breathe some enduring form and function into Leviathan's campaigns?
I think Dice Core would work fantastically with Leviathan, since it was playing around with Leviathan's dice that gave us the idea for Dice Core.
Really?
So, yeah, that was because Leviathan's builds its modifiers into upgrades. And so that's what we were both thinking about, is that rather than always doing +1, +2, +3, and remembering what your modifiers are, Leviathan just has you swap colors of dice, and it's going on a D4 through D12 spectrum. So
Awesome.
both Randall and I were thinking of how elegant that was to not have to track all the modifiers, just use it, put the modifiers in what dice you're using. And so that's how we started both thinking about how could you do it in a role play, and it came up with a 3 dice pool being the best way to do that.
Okay.
So since when I first play tested Dice Core, it was with Leviathan's dice, and we were basing a lot of our modeling off of the Leviathan's dice color scheme. I think, sure, we could look at that in the future. I don't want to bother the Leviathan's people until the Kickstarter is fulfilled, but I know that is making excellent progress because I edited a whole thing about that recently.
Awesome. Great.
So once that's all fulfilled, then I'll definitely harangue Bryn about that. And I think Bryn, who works on Leviathan, should be amenable because he wrote a lot of the Frostpunk core book. He was very much involved in that until we yanked him off to send him to Leviathan's land.
Great. Cool. Jaskell asks, any plans to release Dice Core as a standalone product?
Yes, possibly. I don't know what form that will take yet, but that probably will happen. I just need to figure out, like I said, the form and what kind of license we release it under.
Okay. All right, cool. A couple of questions that popped up for me. Keep entering them in the chat if you have more for Jason about anything we've talked about. Core Hammer asks, will there be anyone with 40 year patches at ChupacabraCon? Probably the only con I'll get to this year. I know that's supposed to be just a Randall and a Ray thing. But I could probably finagle something for you. But I think the whole thing is you have to shake one of their hands to get the patch. So if I just pretend to be Randall or Ray, then maybe we could work something out. So I'm gonna have to get myself a really nice beard for Randall, and we'll make it happen. Magna Morbius asks, has CGL ever considered an approved live play for the BattleTech RPG, sort of like Critical Role, but less spells and more PPCs, the weapons and the drinks? And Karamindy follows up with, if Catalyst does consider it, can you convince the Lord Commander to come out of retirement for it? So I can say that there is something being worked on. As many of you know, on the Shadowrun side, we did some work last year with Realmsmith, the YouTube channel, and Critical Role actors and stuff like that to do a Shadowrun RPG. So we are starting to poke around about something similar for BattleTech, but nothing that I can talk about just yet. So,
But I totally support that she is looking for this and wanting to make it happen.
very, very much so. It's been a good week of progress on that, but I can't say why. Jaskell asks, are there any concerns about Kickstarter bloat with BattleTech still technically live and Levs still in production hell? I'm gonna let you answer that, Jason, and I'll take a
I
second
mean,
stab.
the short answer is yeah, because we want to be able to handle things, and so we have rescheduled things and redone things, and we are concerned about doing too many. So that is a concern we take into account. But I think that the Frostpunk RPG is a different sort of Kickstarter in many ways. I think the audience for the Frostpunk RPG will be different, at least than a lot of the BattleTech audience. There will be overlap, but there will be fairly distinct. And there's also just the timing of Frostpunk 2 coming out and the fact that we can build on that and get support from 11-bit while they're pushing Frostpunk 2 to also help us out with our Kickstarter. That just makes a lot of sense for us to do. The Frostpunk RPG will be considerably simpler than the BattleTech Kickstarter. There are some supercomputers that are considerably simpler than the BattleTech Kickstarter, so that's not saying a whole lot, but it will have, just less items. It will not have 500 or whatever independent SKUs.
No, it will not.
There's no way we'll get that high. So it will be easier to manage. And the fact that we are as far ahead on the product helps a lot too. That the book has been written and edited, and we've got a ton of art already in. The QSR has been written, edited, revised, laid out, reviewed. So we'll have the QSR hopefully in the very near future. So we have the product and we can just focus on making sure that the product we have will get out rather than trying to lift a big manufacturing burden to fulfill the Kickstarter.
And I think that just to add on to that, I think that, BattleTech and the Kickstarter that happened last year really opened a lot of doors for us as a company to be able to expand into these different divisions, which each are pretty much functioning as their own pillar. So yes, we want to support BattleTech. Yes, we want to support Shadowrun and Leviathans. Those are each their own independent lines at this time, but then we have the board game division, we have a fiction division, we have the RPG division, and there's so much that can be done with those. And Kickstarter is a great marketing tool for that. So we want to see that continue to breathe life into these products. Okay, I've got for BattleTech questions. Bovi asks, are the Star League packs only available from CGL stores, or will they go to retail eventually? They will go to retail. Since we just got them up on the online store, all the sell sheets are being submitted as we speak to the warehouse, to Alliance, to ACD, and stuff like that. So the distributors will be able to start ordering those and get them in, which then goes to retail. Core Hammer asked, Torian Concordat t-shirt win? That was would have been a good question for Talon last week. He's the one that does those. If you have ideas, I think honestly, Jared is our new salesperson, or not sales, distribution fulfillment person that we mentioned last week on the episode, and he's already reached out to me with some great ideas for premium minis. Why not, instead of us coming up with the next 5 or 6 of those, why not ask the community and see what the votes come in as? Maybe we can do the same thing with the t-shirts as well. So stay
Like
tuned
a
on that.
Canopian t-shirt.
There's a what?
I'd take a Canopian t-shirt, Made of Street Canopus.
Awesome. Awesome. Um, does the 40th anniversary beginners box set and a Game of Armor combat box set only have new cover art, or is there content changes too? That's from Prussian Havoc. There are refreshed miniatures in there. They have the fewer mold lines, and they're a little bit higher quality than you've seen before. And then there's Clan record sheets. They're the minis are also going to be twisted a little bit to line up with the edges better. So there's been like a little refresh on some of that. Same minis, but updated and a little bit higher quality there. Magna Morbius asks, what merch will be at UK Games Expo? I want a trash can lamb. I believe they're going. Randall is actually on a plane Jason was just telling me, to New York, where he
Yes.
leaves for Spain. And I know UK Games Expo means so much to him. He gets so excited about that one. So he's taking everything he can. So as long as I'm not sure what is on the list or what isn't, but I would imagine that our brand new force packs that are released will be there. Zach Mowry asks, any date estimates for Star League Pack 2? I don't think we do at this point. I'm sure we do, but none that I'm aware of. So I'm gonna have to. I would have to follow up on that one. Or you can go to the BattleTech AMA that is tonight at 8:30 Eastern on the Discord server for Catalyst. The link is in the description of this episode, and you can ask Ray and Aaron tonight, and they should be able to tell you. Chris Merwin asks, hate to ask BattleTech Kickstarter questions, totally okay. Can you tell us anything about shipping timeline? Who is doing shipping, etc., especially for folk who may be moving this summer? So QML is our shipper, and the data file is being turned over to them now for Wave 1. So if you've been charged, you are in Wave 1, and so that spreadsheet is going to be sent over. They are still looking at fulfillment beginning end of May to early June. So basically by the end of this week, if you do have a change of address, there's a link that's been in the past couple of backer updates for QML customer service, and they'll help you get that address updated. So you can make sure that there's no issues there. Let's see. Prussian Havoc asks, can we please get some Leviathans the Great War merch? Even just a t-shirt or a baseball cap would be terrific. We did have a t-shirt at one point. But I know that as we get into planning for a big launch, like once fulfillment is complete, like that is our big goal right now. But then we want to do a ton of stuff for like a big rollout thing. I know I've mentioned in the past, we're looking at shooting some content on I think it's the USS Olympia in Philadelphia. So they've reached out to us. I think I still have an unread email in my inbox of them checking in on that. So we want to do some content there. We want to make it a big thing, and I'm sure there will be merch for that. Circling back up to the top to see if I've missed any questions. Let's see. Prussian Havoc asks, can we have you run Tuesday Newsday from a different contingent every week for the remainder of the spring? Meaning what? Different continent. I read that wrong. I mean, I'd be good with that. However, no, that's a little too much travel for me. But I've got the next few weeks of travel planned. But I am gonna plan to have basically long term for Tuesday Newsday. This is still only episode 13 or 14. So I wanted to get through all the directors and all of the new releases, and have people kind of come on as relevant to announcements like these. But long term, I think it's going to kind of be a rotating. I want to get to the developers, I want to get to the writers, I want to get to the artists, and then so everyone would probably be on once every quarter or every 6 months. So I do want to have like board games come on and talk about the future of the board game division and some of the massive releases we have, and that's Mike Ritchie. And we've been growing, so our director team's been growing, so I've been able to bring some extra guests on. So Lots of content to come. Let's see. Anything else I am missing? Turbo Turtle. We need BattleTech Hawaiian shirts. Um, cool. I think actually that would be something fun to if you email store@catalystgamelabs.com um and say that, we can get it on Talon's radar and forward it to him. So he is the one for in charge of ordering some of that stuff. I will say, because we have 5 minutes left and it looks like we're running short of time. I do have for merch something that I'm planning for the 40th anniversary of BattleTech and the 35th anniversary of Shadowrun. Is so for I've been working with Fanroll, who did all of the dice for the Mercenaries Kickstarter, and so I've been partnering with them about doing for Gen Con release a hex dice tray that has the 40th anniversary logo for BattleTech on it, and then there will be a nice hex case as well that has 6 dice in it, 2 black, 2 white, 2 red for BattleTech that are the sharp edged laser etched ones, and they'll have an Atlas head on them. So that's going to be a pretty neat 40th anniversary collector's kit. And then for the 35th anniversary for Shadowrun, we're going to have a dice tray with fuchsia, and then the orange 35th anniversary logo on it. And then we're going to have I think it's going to be a tin at this point, but that might change. And it's going to have, we're still deciding, 12 or 15 dice. They're going to be in the 6th edition colors of the fuchsia or the teal. But they're glow in the dark and or UV activated. So it's also going to come with a little black light flashlight. And so they're going to be a little clear looking, but as soon as you put the flashlight over it, they pop and are all glow in the dark. So those are going to be 2 fun sets for Gen Con coming out. So I'm really excited about those. So that was my little project when Fanro reached out. I was like, I want to do it. So yeah, those are coming for Gen Con. I'm gonna check the questions chat one more thing one more time. Ram's Head SR logo dice win. The Troll Skull, I'm assuming. The Troll Skull Shadowrun. So we have a lot of Shadowrun dice that have come out over the years. So that's going to be this dice set is going to have the 5s and 6s are going to have the Shadowrun totem on it, and then the 1s have the Troll Skull, like we've seen in the past. So I'm pretty excited for it. Jason, anything else you want to add?
Let's see what Shadowrun dice I have here. Let's see. Like that.
Let's see.
With the
Ooh,
logo and a 5. And the troll skull.
Yep. That's what we'll have. So all of that has been
Of course, I have
sent.
my Shadowrun dice right on my desk. I'm ready to roll anytime.
Hey, listen, if I was home, I'd have them. I think I have them in my backpack actually. But cool. Well, thank you all for joining us. We're just going to wrap about 2 minutes early then. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Jason, for being here and helping me announce Frostpunk. Hope you didn't get too sweaty sitting in your
Still a little sweaty.
sitting in your warm clothes, but I love the commitment to the bit. So thank you guys all for being here, and we'll see you. Am I going to be on next week? I think I'm planning to be on next week. So I'll see you guys next Tuesday, not Thursday, Nursday, Tuesday, Newsday.
Thursday, Newsday.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.